Open your fridge. Go ahead. On that fridge door between the expired mustard and that one weird mysterious container that you're not quite sure what it is a bottle of ranch. There's one in almost every fridge in the US. You put it on your pizza, you put it on your wings, and everybody has that one friend who orders a side of it with literally every meal like it's their entire personality. And recently ranch did something kinda nuts. In American restaurants, it passed ketchup to become the best-selling condiment in the country. Think about that for a second. Ketchup, the unofficial sauce of patriotism and hot dogs, if you're 8 years old. Dethroned by a thick, white goop. Respectfully. Ranch was invented in the Alaskan wilderness by a plumber for the single purpose of getting a crew of furious, burly, blue-collared workers to stop throwing vegetables at him. Now, the story of ranch is wild, but not as wildly delicious as the recipe that I'm gonna show you after we talk about it. But first, we gotta drop some context. The daddy of ranch was a kid from Nebraska named Steve Henson. He was the type of dude who rode the rails during the Great Depression, you know, a la Jack Kerouac, that type of bloke. He eventually ended up in Alaska in the early 1950s running a plumbing crew in the wilderness. So, why fix shitters in the tundra? Nobody asked. Well, Alaska was paying plumbing contractors dumb cheddar because the work was cold, wet, and miserable. But Steve, who I guess really liked money, wanted in. He's out on remote job sites with a full crew, which comes with one catch that nobody warned him about. Out there, the boss feeds everybody. There's no running to the store. There is no store. You are the store. And Steve's new gaggle of burly bushmen were large, thick-necked, and often worked to the bone, right? Very long hours, terrible weather. I would be pissed too. So if dinner was terrible, the polite ones would walk out cursing, but the roughnecks, they actually might throw food directly back in your face, literally. And the one thing they would never eat, they would not touch, was vegetables. Now, there was already a trick for cooking in the frigid wilds of Alaska, because the constant enemy in the bush was, you know, either your food completely freezing solid or turning gnarly before you get to it, right? Spoiling. They didn't have Yetis out in the woods yet. Well, maybe they had real Yetis, but not the, you know, amazing luxury cooler Yetis. And the fix, oddly enough, was buttermilk. They put it on and in everything. It traveled, it held up, and it didn't really spoil because, you know, it was kind of already spoiled on purpose. Cultured, rather. So Steve decides to make a sauce with the buttermilk. However, his actual contribution, the part that's really actually his, is dumping in a bunch of mayo, a pile of herbs, and a ton of garlic. And to his surprise, his invention was a hit. The vegetables vanished and the boys were buzzing. Nobody throws anything, potential riot quelled. Matter of fact, it works so well that Steve retires at 35 off salad dressing. Not actually, but you know, it was probably the ranch that kind of helped his crew work harder, longer, faster, and stronger. Ranch, natural enhancement. For everyone, not just big burly men. Which raises a fair question. If you find yourself independently wealthy at such a ripe, young age, what the hell do you do to keep yourself busy? You buy a ranch. Steve decides to buy a dude ranch in the mountains above Santa Barbara. Now, this is the kind of place where city folk go to ride the horsies and feel like cowboys for the weekend. He pictures a rustic paradise, so naturally he names it Hidden Valley. And it goes broke almost immediately. But there's one thing at this failing ranch that the guests could not get enough of, and it was not the horsies. It's the salad from the steakhouse at the ranch. Specifically the mysterious white goo that's on said salad. And steak. And chicken. And potatoes. Couldn't get enough of the stuff. There's at least one report of somebody putting it on ice cream, which we're gonna leave right there. I don't know what kind of pick-me girl does that. Anyways, Steve's custies start asking to take home jars of the stuff. They start showing up with their own empty containers, like Hidden Valley is the gas station and Ranch is the petrol. Just like a bunch of like old people like coming up to you with like jars being like, please sir, please, fill me with Ranch, Papa. Sorry. And Steve, who is obviously no dumbass, right? Business savvy Stevie, he notices that nobody is this emotional about the horseback riding. So he starts mailing out little envelopes of dry mix for 75 cents each. And the orders do not stop. Soon, Steve's house is buried in envelopes heading to all 50 states. And a man who tried to open an equestrian paradise is now running a mail order dressing empire out of his living room entirely by accident. Business is booming. Matter of fact, it was booming so loud that it attracted the attention of one certain bleach company that we're all familiar with. In the early 70s, Clorox buys Hidden Valley for 8 million bones. And Steve, who started this so that grown men wouldn't pelt him in the face with food, retires for yet a second time and decides to commission an island in Dubai shaped like a ranch bottle. I kid. That would be sick though. I'd for sure move there, or at least have like a home there. No, I wouldn't. I can't afford a home at all. Anyways, Clorox hits a wall because they want a finished product that they could sell on the shelves. And you know, dairy is dairy, right? It's volatile, it goes bad quickly. So the bleach company does bleach company things and, you know, takes Steve's homemade dressing into the laboratory. They add ingredients with long names ending in numbers. They force feed it to monkeys, rabbits, and frogs. And rumor has it, they even waterboard enemies of the state using the stuff. At least one of those things is true. But finally, they crack it. But crack it. A bottle of ranch that can sit on the shelf for months, perfectly stable, ready to make your spinach not suck, is what they ultimately achieve. And here's the detail that probably haunted the heck out of Steve. When he set all this up, he trademarked the name Hidden Valley. He didn't trademark the word ranch. He owned the brand, not the noun. So basically the future most popular flavor in America, legally, was free real estate. Anybody could make ranch, and they did. Once ranch lived in a bottle, it was GG. It passed Italian to become the #1 dressing in America and never gave the crown back. Then a chip company put the flavor on a Dorito and ranch broke free of salad completely, right? It became a flavor, really a craving, with no one specific food attached. Quick aside here, because this was absolutely mind-blowing to me. In much of Europe, they don't have ranch. So Cool Ranch Doritos are literally sold under the name Cool American. Look it up, I'm not playing with you.
So that's what we say.
Back home, stateside, it was really the fast food places that finished the job and brought ranch into the zeitgeist. Pizza joints clocked people dipping their crusts and began offering it on the side. Wings came with it, then people started dunking their fries into it, then nuggets, and even the occasional baby carrot, which by the way is just a regular carrot that has been trimmed down to size. We've been being lied to by Big Carrot this entire time. Today, most of the ranch in this country never actually sees a salad, right? It's more of a dip or a sauce, you know, a mood, if you will. A vibe, it's a vibe. Sorry about that. The ranch that conquered the good old US of A, the ranch in your fridge right now, that's the industrialized version. Shelf stable, lab tuned, and built to last for months, which, you know, honestly is pretty tight. That's like some serious apex species stuff, but you know, it's a far cry from the original. The thing that Steve actually made in Alaska before the bleach company, before the preservatives with the long names, was just buttermilk, dairy, and herbs. Fresh, tangy, and alive. It goes bad in a week because it's actual food. And the thing is, very few of us have had that real version, right? We've all just kind of had the industrialized descendant. No shame in that, by the way. It's just kind of a fact. So today we're gonna make a version similar to Steve's original. Then we'll dip a bunch of stuff into it to see what ranch can truly make better. Hint, it's not a good steak. Please do not do that. Okay, let's cook or mix. All right, ranch dressing, man, it's pretty simple. I just wanted to talk about a couple of the ingredients here because we got options, all right? First off, you know the salt and pepper. We got the MSG, monosodium glutamate. It's basically what's gonna bring the umami to the ranch. If you love Hidden Valley, this is what gives it that sort of like palate coating, addicting feeling. Lemon juice, classic, just the juice of one lemon. You can also use white vinegar, but I prefer lemon juice for this. A little onion powder here because we're not like chopping up onions and putting it in our ranch, which would make it chunky and weird, but we do want a little bit of that onion flavor, hence the onion powder. Garlic, you know it, you love it. And then our 2 herbs here. Okay, there are 2 herbs I like to put into my ranch, right? And those are chives and dill. If I had to choose one, I'd probably say the dill. To me, like dilly ranch is just kind of like what I think of when I think of ranch. Then of course we have our mayonnaise, crucial, that body of the ranch, the thickness factor. You can ignore these last 2 ingredients, which are heavy cream and buttermilk, and totally just use some sour cream if that strikes you fancy. A little easier to just go out to the store and buy that. It's at like every grocery store. But in my experience, it makes the best ranch imaginable. And that's utilizing these 2 ingredients. Again, buttermilk and heavy cream. We talked about the importance of buttermilk in bush Alaskan cooking. You mix these together and you leave them on your counter for about a day, 2 days, and it creates one of the most versatile and one of my personal favorite ingredients that I cook with, period. Cream frige. Cue the Randy Marsh.
Cream frige.
20 years later and that still hits. All right, so into a container with a lid goes our heavy cream. This buttermilk is what's gonna be the coagulant and sort of that like fermentation starter, the good bacteria that we're adding to our creme fraiche here. You know, a lot of recipes call for 1 or 2 tablespoons. I like to maybe do like a 1/4 of a cup. It kind of works faster, ferments faster, and it gets thickums more fast. Then you just mixy very, very slightly, boom. And you pop that on your counter where you're gonna let it sit for a day, maybe 2 days, stirring 1 or 2 times per day. Then when it's more noticeably thick, you'll pop that in the fridge, let it sit for 1 extra day, and boom, you'll have some creme fraiche on your hands. At the store, a tiny little container of this would cost maybe like $10. So by buying the ingredients yourself, you really are saving money at the end of the day. I almost forgot, one last ingredient we're gonna add to our ranch is a tiny bit of sugar. And this is not for sweetness. You're not going for like a sugary ranch, right? It's basically just gonna trick your dopamine receptors into triggering the deliciousness sensation that your guests just won't really be able to put their finger on. All right, let's make our ranch. Into a mixing bowl, we'll go in with the creme fraiche, le mayonnaise, garlic, minced up real fine like, the jus of 1 lemon, chives, a bit of dill, the tiniest smidge of sugar, a bump of the GP, a little bit of MSG in there, onion powder, a little bit of BP, and some kosher salt. Got to season cold food harder than you would warm food, and ranch is served cold, so a little more salt than you think. Now we mix. So don't kill me, but I highly recommend putting this in a sealable container and popping it in the fridge for at least a couple hours. Better yet, like make this the day before you want to use it. And that's just to let sort of like all the herbs meld with the dairy and the fat, the salts to kind of work their way through the sauce. It does taste noticeably different and in my experience better if you let it sit, you know, overnight here. But you know, if you do want to use this right off the bat, it's totally fine too. But you know, if you're planning, which I know you are, I know you're a smart guy, I know you're a smart little baby boy, baby girl. Sorry. Plan ahead, because it's worth it. Beautiful. Okay, so little side quest here. We all know ranch, right? It comes in the bottle, but then it also comes in these packets here, right? Dip mix, topping and dressing, dip mix. Let's compare these and kind of like see what the differences are really quick. I got some sour cream, why not? All right, so it calls for 2 cups. I got a cup left of sour cream, so I'm just gonna use half of this. I'm gonna save the rest of this to crust a steak with. Just kidding. We're gonna go in with our cream. Oh yeah. Mixy poo. Literally just sour cream and ranch powder. Yeah, that's dip consistency. Just looking at that alone, it's so much thicker. It's got that, it's almost got like stiff peaks. You know what I mean? Look at that. Totally stiff peaks. Whoa. Since I got it on deck, carrots, such a classic combo right here. Tastes like every other time I've had ranch. You know what, you love it. Or you don't. Now for the dip. Yeah, look at that, dude. Just stuck on there, not dripping at all. Whoa, it's salty. I probably should add more cream in there. If you have the ranch pack and you have some creme fraiche, maybe a little bit of mayo, it says to use sour cream, maybe mix all 3, maybe make a trifecta, suicide it, you know what I mean? Have fun, but yeah, this is definitely better for dipping, but yeah, this needs a little bit more sour cream. One's a topping dressing, so that's the difference. Before we get testing, I chose these foods because I feel like they're what most people eat with ranch. Now, I could be wrong, you could disagree with me, and if that's the case, let me know how you eat ranch in the comments, right? The weirder the better. But also keep it real. I gotta order a pizza. Oh, baby. Ooh. This holds a special place in my heart. Fun fact, Domino's was actually started in Michigan, I believe under the name Michigan Farms. Yeah, free range pizza, baby. Domino's. You're gonna like the way you look. All right, so we talked about the pizza. Domino's, classic, good. Moving down the line here, we have a house salad. What does that mean? Well, kind of like a boring, sad salad that sometimes actually can be done well and does hit every once in a while, that you might get on the side of your burger instead of fries if you're trying to be healthy. Then, of course, we got our French fries here, crispy and hot, good with ranch. Then, probably the most classic thing you'll see served with ranch, depending on who you ask, wings. Buffalo wings. Good old classic regular buffalo wings. If you're asking me, I'm more of a BC guy, I'm a blue cheese guy, but now the objective here is to see which of these 4 foods are made better with ranch. It's not which food is better, it's which is made better with ranch. How far does the ranch take it? On that note, let's start with the wings, you know? Classic stuff right here. Buffalo wing, ranch, dunked in said ranch. Salud. I might prefer blue cheese, but ranch still rocks too. I'm not a hater. Now, the reason that works so well and it rocks so much is because you have, again, that tangy, hot buffalo sauce all over the wings. And when you dip it in that cooling ranch, it's the temperature contrast, all right? It's kind of the same reason for these fries, which we will do next. Couple of fries in the ranch. Exact same reason. Salty. The ranch kind of cools down the fry, but it adds even more richness and savoriness. It's a lot. It's very like a rich pairing, but I get it. Okay, how are we gonna do this? We're gonna just have to pour that ranchy poo on the set. Just a surface treatment, probably. These things are always difficult to eat. Whoa, that's a massive bite, but we're gonna send that. Oh. Somehow that just like, I just went on an emotional journey in real time. That reminds me exactly like the salads I used to eat in my dorm room cafeteria freshman year of college. The ranch tastes strikingly similar too. That cafeteria was definitely a scary and potentially illegal place, but they probably made their own ranch thinking about it now. Good for them. One of those fast food restaurants that really kind of like helped put ranch on the map was Domino's. And that's why I ordered Domino's. It holds a special place in my heart. It is the pizza of sleepovers. It is the pizza of most of America's youth. So look at this. I had to try their ranch too. All right, xanthan gummy, industrial looking. Let's give that a nice. Tastes exactly like Hidden Valley stuff. So we're actually gonna use our homemade ranch because I made it. All right, a lot of people who I will not name in my friend circle who just do this, no matter how good or artisan the pizza is. Man, if that brought me back to my college days, this brings me back to 3rd grade. How could ranch make this bad? It's already pretty enjoyable as is. Before we make any decisions, I've always been curious about this. Cool ranch. Look at that zesty, zesty color and that zesty, zesty chip bag and that zest. What would happen if you take a Cool Ranch Dorito and dip it in ranch? I feel like this is what they were scared of when Y2K was coming. Is this going to be a great reset? I'm nervous. All right, Geronimo. It's actually pretty dank. Whoa. I recommend that. I am a garbage person after all. Back to business. Crazy enough, on this board today of these popular foods often eaten with ranch, I think in last place, the food least benefited from the ranch, it's gonna have to be the pizza. I know you're probably tweaking right now. Relax, it's gonna be fine. Hear me out. This is already really, really good on its own. Any other pizza besides Domino's, I'm not putting ranch on that, right? Here in Chicago, we got a lot of great pizza. It doesn't need any sort of like sauce on it, right? The sauce is already on there. However, Domino's, when you get to that crust layer, or like the crust bone, the pizza bone, if you will, don't get in the ranch, it's good. This is already so like tasty and like addicting as it is, right, by design, that it doesn't need the ranch. So 4th place, pizza. In 3rd place, the bronze, the food thirdly affected by the ranch, right? It's gonna have to be the fries. Kind of a similar reasoning for the pizza here. I love fries. I actually prefer them most of the time kind of like on their own. I know it's like weird, that might be like a demonic thing. The ranch, it's just a little bit too much for me. It's just a little bit too rich. I think fries are just great on their own, and there's other like delicious things to dip your fries in that are better than ranch. That's a pretty subjective answer there, but yeah, this whole thing is subjective. Which brings us to the silver, 2nd place, right? I think you already know which one I'm gonna choose, but oddly enough, it's the buffalo wings. If I had to eat buffalo wings without ranch, that would be completely fine with me. I think if you love ranch, you should always be eating it with your wings because wings do love sauce. A world when wings aren't served with blue cheese or ranch is a sad one that I don't want to be a part of. Compared to the 1st place, they just don't really need the ranch that much. Which means in 1st place, the food that benefits most from ranch, it's the house salad. Crazy, crazy. Imagine this salad with like any other dressing on it, and to me, it's just not at all ever what I would want personally. That might be like a childish answer from like, vegetable bad unless you put ranch on them. That's not true, I don't feel that way, but with this specifically, ranch needs to be on a house salad. I don't know why, I can't explain it. It's something that's ingrained in my DNA. I don't know, you tell me if you agree or not, but I think that, especially ever having this transcendent moment, like going back to the dorms, hold on, let me just hit this really quick in time travel. A house salad without ranch ain't a house salad. But you tell me. Of course, I'm one guy. Your favorite thing to eat ranch with might not even be on the board. And if that's the case, let us know what that is once again. And this didn't win because I like house salad more than pizza, wings, and french fries. I do not. I just really think that on this board, compared to all the foods here, these can carry themselves and are often served with other sauces. So they're fine without the ranch. They don't need it. The house salad, that needs it. Thanks for watching until the end here, guys. If you like the video, like the video. If you're new to the channel, sub to the channel, join us. If you like history and cooking and food and the context behind the dishes you know and love, again, sub to the channel. We're gonna be doing a lot more of this. I'm really excited about it. Really excited to share these stories with you. And of course, cook like really delicious versions of the food at hand, because that is ultimately what we do here. The best way to support the channel is over on the Grocery Fund, aka the Patreon. But you know, really the best way is just that you're here watching the video until the end. Another way, if you want, is I make merch, I make t-shirts. This is a weird one that I just put together. I might get in trouble for it, I'm not sure. But yeah, dude, AdamWitt.store, I make t-shirts. I think the designs are fun. I think you might dig them too. So until next we meet, take care now. That's my cowboy impression. Ugh!